Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Town of Sykesville Planning Commission. First order of business is the approval of minutes of our May 5th meeting. I'm sure we've all had the chance to read them. Any comments, issues, corrections, anything that anybody needs to say about that? That being said, I move that we approve the minutes of May the 5th. Do I have a seconder for that?
Second.
No. Brandon? Okay, go to the next one. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye, unanimously approved. County updates. The staff report is there for all to read, and I'm sure it'll be posted as well with this agenda. And so we'll move to our business agenda. And the first item on there is to consider, discuss, act on a site plan for a garage conversion at 7557 Main Street. So Kevin, if you just want to fill us in with a little staff report on that.
Yep. Yeah, so this is for our neighbors right next door here. So 7557 Main Street. They're showing the conversion of the garage from essentially what's now a storage space into a usable commercial space to accommodate the expansion of a music school that they currently have on the first floor of their principal structure there. The layout of the overall site is going to remain exactly as is, and all major modifications are just going to be inside of the garage, with the only exception being some minor facade changes to the garage structure itself. So the reason this is before Planning Commission, as most of us already know, is that any principal permitted use in the business local zone where a building permit or zoning certificate are required are also subject to a site plan review by the Planning Commission. So I put in some of the authority that the Planning Commission has when looking at site plans, but we'll jump over that. So we know, again, it's business local, and which allows for schools, art, trade, business, or nursery as a principal permitted use. Again, the existing music school is that's in the principal structure is sort of outgrown its space, so they need a little bit of extra room to accommodate some more students and additional teachers. So what the applicant provided is really just showing the interior layout. It's about 400 square foot footprint, which will have a fully open classroom, I think on both floors, but they can correct me if I'm wrong. And the proposed changes that are all going to be interior are updating the electrical work, installing an ADA accessible half bathroom, installing with a wall and a door to separate the upper and lower floor, insulating and finishing the lower interior walls, and then installing a mini split heating and cooling system as well. And then I also mentioned some minor facade changes on the outside, which our Historic District Commission already approved last week. Regarding parking, there's one reserved space for the residential portion of the property and no established parking for the commercial use, and the plan doesn't indicate any additional parking being provided. So we know that this site's been pretty much the same since it was constructed, with, again, in more recent years, the bottom floor being converted for commercial use. The parking requirements for the music school is one space for each 10 classroom seats based on the town code. So the applicants did say that they have a plan to occasionally hold some group voice lessons for up to 30 students at a time. So that would put us, and that's about 1 to 2 times per week for about 1 to 2 hours each time. So that would put us at 3 additional parking spaces being required to meet the minimum town code requirements. But as a lot of us know, again, the town code permits the Planning Commission to authorize modifications, reductions, or waivers of parking requirements in the business local zone if adequate parking has already existed. So in this case, the structure is centrally located to several town-owned public parking lots, as well as public parking along Main Street. So given that availability of public parking, along with the fact that the larger group classes are only going to be once or twice a week, staff would support a waiver of those associated parking requirements in this particular case. So with that, we're presenting the site plan and the site sketch for Planning Commission review and approval. Again, staff has reviewed the request and is comfortable with the proposed plan as presented, and to allow for a waiver of the 3 required parking spaces, including a recommended motion if the Planning Commission agrees with that assessment. I know some of the applicants are here if you guys have any questions for them.
Okay. Does anybody have anything that they want to question or deal with in this particular application? No?
I had one question. When are the expected classes to occur? So it's like the middle of the week. Do we know any more information about that?
So most of them, and I don't know if you guys have the schedule, but
I don't.
Yeah, and talking to the woman Julie who runs the classes, most of them are during the week.
Great.
Yeah, not during the weekends when we expect most of the parking lots to be full. So.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Okay. So that being dealt with, I think we're ready to move on with this. Yep. Okay, that being said, I move that we approve the proposed site plan to allow for the conversion of the garage at 7557 Main Street to accommodate the expansion of the music school use, along with a waiver of the 3 required parking spaces. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Ken, all in favour?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next thing, which is to consider, discuss, act on the Schoolhouse Overlook Subdivision Preliminary Plan. Kevin, you want to give us a quick overview of that? And we'll...
So the owners and developers for the Schoolhouse Overlook subdivision are requesting approval of their preliminary subdivision plan. So the properties, or the project rather, is located on a property that's zoned conservation, which has a 2-step approval process. In this case, it's preliminary and final, so a little bit different than the 3-step process we've been dealing with in the PEC. So the applicants have been working their way through the town and county's review process for the past several years, and following a recent review of their updated subdivision plan and all the associated county comment letters, staff felt that now is the right time to bring it back to Planning Commission to discuss and vote on their preliminary plan. So, quick summary of what we're looking at. It's 5 new residential lots being served by a use and common driveway off of Schoolhouse Road. Each lot is a minimum of 3 acres to comply with the regulations of our zoning code. The proposal also shows the residential units complying with all setback requirements of the zoning district, which will be verified again once they submit for building permits as well. The plan has received all necessary approvals from the relevant county review agencies and addressed all staff comments up to this point. I've spoken with folks over at the county just to confirm, and they're all good. All their agencies have given the thumbs up on this version of the plan.
Okay.
And as a reminder, we did do an adequate public facilities review for this project. So some of us weren't here. If we think all the way back to November 2022, it was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and then subsequently approved by council. The main conversation during that time, as is usually the case, was with schools and Sykesville Middle School in particular, which was projected as inadequate for their enrollment projections by 2027. But during that time, the discussions around the fact that it was only 5 units, it wouldn't have any significant impact on school enrollment regardless. And that was a comment made by the folks at the county themselves when talking about this.
Yep.
And then there's also been a plan already approved for a major addition to Sykesville Middle that's supposed to be completed by the 2028 school year, which will significantly increase their enrollment projections and the amount of students that they'll be able to handle anyway. So it should bring them back into adequate capacity by the 2028 school year. There were also a couple comments during that time about the use of private wells, as well as the ability of emergency services to utilize the use of common driveway. I have the review letters, and then I also called and double checked with all the relevant county agencies there, and nobody has any issues or concerns with either of those facts at this point as it's presented. I did want to note, and it's not in the staff report, so forgive me, Schoolhouse Road, we're in the works of actually having Schoolhouse Road dedicated to the town, because that's a private road too, and we're not supposed to have a private driveway or use a common driveway coming off a private road, but we're already in the works. We've got the draft language for that. I think Joe's already updated council or given council an update on that, so we anticipate that dedication happening within the next month or two, so that Schoolhouse Road is then a town-owned road and gets rid of that issue. So,
But that has not come before council yet.
That has not.
It is not, just so everybody understands.
Right now, okay. I wasn't sure if Joe.
It hasn't, it's in some of the documentation that
Okay.
is prepared for some of the planning documentation or like updates, but it hasn't actually come before the council
Yeah.
yet.
Thank you. Appreciate the
No
clarification.
problem.
But with all that being said, Planning Commission is being asked to discuss the preliminary plan and then hold a vote on approval. Again, staff has no outstanding concerns at this point with the plan and does recommend approval as presented. But as always, Planning Commission can approve the plan with any conditions to be addressed during the final plan phase of the project. And then obviously when they submit a final plan as well, it'll go through an additional round of reviews with staff and with the county as well. So.
Okay.
And then, since you have the applicants are here this evening, if you guys have any questions or specifics on the plan for them?
Anything that anybody wants to ask on this plan? Discuss?
No, we're
No?
the
I'm good?
big questions I remember the last time around were
Yeah.
the emergency service, whether they could get in or not,
Yeah.
and the wells, so.
Right.
Yeah,
And
like I said, I double checked on it. Like I said, I have the letters. I
Okay.
double checked on all those because I remember those being big topics of discussion.
Okay.
Everyone at the county was happy, so.
I do have one thing. Is there any safety concern with like a 15-degree driveway?
15%.
15%, great, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's
that's pretty, up here, I think we can go up to 17%.
Okay.
And all the others, like Baltimore and the other jurisdictions, there is 15 or 16% as well, so.
Okay.
It's a pretty,
Just
normal.
curious. Just curious, that's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. Anything else? No? In which case, I think it's time to move on. I move that we approve the schoolhouse oval preliminary plan and allow for the applicant to move forward with the final subdivision plan phase. Seconder?
Is it possible to talk a little bit, and maybe we need a second before I say anything, but just to make sure that we do go through the process for Schoolhouse Road and make sure that there's no issues there, just as sort of an amendment to what you're saying.
You want me to add that to
Yeah.
the motion?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so Schoolhouse Road is what we need to have at the end of this is that the town assumes responsibility
Yeah, thank you.
for Schoolhouse Road.
Yeah, and I always think that could be something that we, obviously make sure is has before final plan gets
Right.
approved.
Right.
But,
So let's just include a conditional on the fact that the town assumes responsibility for Schoolhouse Road.
perfect.
All right? Seconder? Ted? All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck, gentlemen. Good to go, okay?
And then, Kevin, is it possible just to add that to the staff note? We're good, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we add that to the staff note when it does come before us, that it's important that it's just one of the factors to this actual development here? That'd be awesome. Thank you so much. That'll help remind me too.
All right. Town updates.
Yeah, so just a few things. First, an update on the streetscape down at the south end, so that timeline has now moved to the end of June, it looks like, before that is completed. So, just kicking that can down the road, but they are making progress. I think it looks nice out there, but it's looking like the end of June before that project's actually finished. So.
Does June have a Y on it?
January.
I was told end of June, so that's
Joe said the same thing.
So
Let's go to February. Everybody works in January.
maybe the July meeting I'll be
June.
saying that project has been kicked to the end of July. But as of right now, the date we got is the end of June. So that's what we're going with. That's what we're putting out there. So hopefully we all of our fingers are crossed that that's actually true. And then we talked about the Squash Road dedication. The only other thing, so obviously we had to remove the discussion of HB 538 off the agenda because our lawyer who couldn't be here this evening wanted to be able to address you guys directly. So we were thinking about doing a workshop or an information session prior to the July meeting, so everyone's ready for that. A couple dates in talking to the lawyer today that they recommended are Tuesday, June 17th or Wednesday, June 18th. We don't have to decide right this second, but those are 2 dates that were good for the lawyers, so.
What time do you think?
We're
Evening?
thinking in the evening,
Okay.
7 o'clock, which is typical, but we can be a little bit more flexible with that, or we can even do a virtual meeting for that if.
I'd sooner it be in person, I don't know about you guys.
Yes.
That one especially.
Yeah, no, I'd rather be here. It's just
Yeah.
easier to cover.
Absolutely. So I'll send an email with those 2 dates tomorrow, so we don't have to figure it out right this second. Give you guys a little bit of time to look at your calendar, and then we can get a consensus on that. That way just everyone's prepared and has information about the House bill
Right.
prior to the July meeting. Because obviously the Moorfield folks are using that as justification for some of their changes to their concept plan. So.
The other thing is, I hope you've had the chance to look at it. It's a bit obtuse. All right, it's maybe that's just the way legal documents look. I don't know, but I think it needs revising for clarity. I'll be honest. The other thing is there is a website, if you haven't already found it, which has frequently asked questions, and it's put out by the
Department of Housing
and Community Development, and it has frequently asked questions which specifically relate A to this bill, but B to the section of the bill which is important to us, which is the one which deals with historic properties that were owned by the state within X number of years. And if you look at that's got more information than this has. But of course, that's not the legal basis. This is the legal basis.
But
who can understand it?
Right.
Oh my God,
I
it's
can
awful.
circulate that website to everybody. tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Send an email circular about that as well. Because that was something that we probably gonna have you guys look at either right before or during this meeting anyway. Because it is a good document, at least to get some general questions answered.
Is that meeting a public meeting that we would have, the
Would have to be.
workshop?
Yeah, well, it will be a
Yeah.
public meeting.
So anyone could show up, so that the public had interest in this, and I would just reiterate, you sort of slid by it a little bit, but the primary basis that Warfield is using to increase their density by, what is it, 398, I think I got correct.
It's 349 if you do the calculation.
It was a floating number, I think.
Yeah,
That's very specific, 398.
it was a big number, that it was
I don't understand how they got that number.
It's not 5.
It's not my math. The math that I've done, based on what the bill says, brings you out to, I think, 349. But topographically, I don't see how 349 is going to fit on the space that's available to build on. And secondly, this is the big thing that we need to work out. Are we still in a position to make decisions about land use percentages?
Right, and that
Because
would
if we are, then that number is essentially irrelevant.
And that will be part of the discussion with the attorney trying to update you guys on it. I'll let them, I'll let our legal counsel
And-
handle that question.
That's it.
Along
That's
those
the whole
lines,
question.
Yeah.
with the land use percentages, I had a couple comments. And basically, so prior to HB 538, the major argument, from my understanding, the rezoning argument hinged on there not being a market, a retail market. You know, even in our staff notes, they clearly said they don't believe that there is a market. And I would
Day one.
And when we had the public hearing 2 years ago about that exact same thing, that was their argument for rezoning. And I would really, really like us as the commission to be proactive with like defining what information, testimony data we need to understand the market. Do we need third-party studies? Do we need market analysis? Do we need real estate agents to speak? Like, how do we develop an understanding of the market? Because I don't think it's sufficient for that, the only thing for them to submit something and we say, well, okay, we make our decisions on that. So I think we need something above and beyond.
Here's the thing, Daniel.
Yeah.
I think it was David Hume who says that knowledge can only be born of experience.
Yeah.
If you look around
Yeah.
and you look up on 26 up there and you look at Exchange Drive,
Yeah.
virtually all of those are full with light industry, with professional offices. There's a new development which is further from the centre of Eldersburg than Sykesville is, that's called itself Sykesville Business Centre, which is a mixed use.
It has 1,500 square foot places that have been booked before it's even complete.
These things are being built. They call it Sykesville Business Centre, even though it's not in Sykesville, because they think there's some cachet in having a business centre with the name of Sykesville on it. And yet we're told over and over and over, it can't be done, it can't be done. Well, it's been done.
It's being done.
It's being done. And that's the issue that I have with
tense.
it.
Yeah, and I would love for us to have like, instead of them presenting something and us refuting it here, like us to have like something substantial. I don't know like what's available to us, or like what we can even do with it being private property. And also like related to that is like specifically honing into the historic buildings as well. Like just developing a better understanding of like what any owner needs to do to like what's their value, what's their like how much have they depreciated, like I don't know, just like what are the attributes and properties of that, like what would any owner have to contend with in terms of like the environmental challenge, you know, like the lead and the asbestos remediation, and just
I think much of that, my understanding of that, and this is from talking to Jonathan Herman, who was much more involved in that than any of us were, that those buildings were essentially taken down to what is known as a cold, dark shell.
Yes.
Which means that mitigation has pretty much been done.
cool.
And what you're left with is something that needs a design process and a costing, and I'm sure that there are tax credits involved in all of that. I don't know what they are exactly.
Yeah.
But all of these are fair questions to which I'm not sure that we're going to get rational answers to.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, we need to think about this, and obviously tonight isn't the place to come up with answers to it.
Right.
But if we're still able to set land use percentages, what is it reasonable for us to set as percentages for housing and business and retail? Because I think all of us have thought over the years, and we've offered it to them before, but they never came back for it, that we're open to increasing the percentage of housing. But where would that be, and what might that look like, assuming that we can still do that?
And with an understanding that if that were to happen, that would involve changing our code, which would ultimately be a council action. Obviously, the commission could make
Make a recommendation.
but that would ultimately be a council council action.
Yeah.
How does that process work? Would there have to be public meetings and?
Yeah, so anytime there's a code amendment or a text amendment to the code, there's a public hearing portion of that. I can't remember if that public hearing takes place at planning commission, or I believe it's a council, town council public hearing, but typically it comes before council. Council will refer it to planning commission for review and recommendation.
Right.
And then it goes back to council for a decision, and they hold a public hearing prior to that decision being made.
Okay, so just read up as much as you can, guys,
Yeah.
and be informed. That's all we can do. 'Cause,
And it'd be good if that happened before the meeting with the attorney, because that'd be a good.
just so that you have good
to
questions
sort of-
to ask, and so we're all on the same page, and we're not blinded by whatever
Like,
comes.
I'll shoot everyone an email tomorrow with potential dates, so
Yeah.
we can get locked in. for the next
Sounds good.
meeting.
A lot of the, Dan, a lot of the questions you brought up, they were discussed at length way back in the beginning, even prior to the sale. And I think if memory serves me correctly, I mean, the infrastructure's there, the whole thing with the cold dark shell. I mean, it's that from the Warfield Commission, from that original process.
Collaborative, yeah.
And it's kind of been, I think the very first meeting we had with them after the sale, that was brought up. They started pounding home the point that there's just no market for retail space. None. From day one.
Okay. All right. Anything else, folks? Okay, then I move that we adjourn. Seconded by Ken. All in favour?
Aye.
Good to go. Thanks, folks. We'll see you later in the month.